What is thy bidding, my master? There is a great disturbance in the Force. I have felt it. We have a new enemy. The young rebel known as Blue has found a secret wormhole through the asteroids into our empire. How is this possible? Search your feelings, and you will know it to be true. How can we stop him? Find the secret and destroy it.
Hi everyone, we have just received visual confirmation of Darth Striker's attempt at the asteroid's cut. I repeat, the asteroid's cut. However, the footage that we have obtained is missing a critical ingredient to finding out the secret of the asteroids. But anyway, let's take a look at what we have and go through why I believe this is one of the more poorly designed tracks in Redout from the perspective of risk versus reward when it comes to taking shortcuts. Now, if you see my screen here, this is going to be leading into the double left-hander before we approach the starting line. And what we're going to have to do is wall bounce twice to navigate into this straightaway. So if we back that up a little bit, the intended line would be landing straight on this track here. Now there are a number of ways that we can cut this track and reduce some of the angles and time, but some of them do involve risk. So in most racing situations and in preparation for a time trial lap, I would recommend that you simply land as intended on this part of the track. Now the first of two wall bounces here is difficult because if we look at where we're contacting with the ship, the wall slopes to the left. You can see my cursor. So it's important that we bounce in a way that will allow us to maintain speed to get to the apex of this left and not scrape the wall. The second wall bounce here is a lot more forgiving because the track actually slopes outwards from this section. So we can just apply a little bit of a back corner bounce and be on our way. Now, if you have seen my Ghibli lap, I talked about the idea of counter strafing to gain speed on straightaways. And even as I'm setting up for the starting line here, look where my ship is pointed relative to the track. So I am pointed at the right side of these ceiling arrows, whereas with a normal lap, you would not counter strafe and you would not be able to hit the same speeds to get us into the best possible start. So right now I am over 1100 miles an hour. If you take a look at your own time trials under replay, you might notice that you're somewhere around the 10 or 1000, 1050 mark. That's going to show that you have some speed that you can pick up with. So if you look at my boost gauge, I am mostly full as I pass the starting line, and I'm going to drain to just about half. Let me get away from that white, so right there. So we're about halfway now on the boost, and because of our power-up selection, we're using the overloaded energy turbine, and that allows us to quickly recharge our boost. So I can get a full half drain, but by the time I get to my next wall, I'm nearly full. So I've gotten the speed here. built it up. I'm able to transition that speed into one more of those outward sloping bounces, and then eliminate almost my entire boost meter as I travel through the straight. Now, if anyone has seen the donut diagram from the Redout Discord, it talks about the idea of kind of preemptively strafing to drift the vehicle before you get to a sharp turn. This is Exhibit A. So watch how I create an immediate drifting pattern, and then I allow that momentum of the ship to carry me to a turn. So that's one of those turns you want to cut real closely. Now we're going to fly a little bit. Notice I'm once again getting into a bit of a counter strafe the other direction as I pass through this structure. Now what I want to do is visualize a spot to create a wall bounce and cut some of this track right here. What I like to do is split a line right through the middle of our visual perception of the track, and then try to land right there. So watch this. Notice how we cut the middle. If we had taken that a little bit better here, we would be even closer to this black arch, and that would still allow us a clean bounce, because you saw right there, I bounced a little soon, and then when I made that transition, I'm pointed too far to the left wall, and then I had to make a slight adjustment there to get back on track. That's a spot where you can gain a little bit of time. Now, if you're looking at the checkpoint and you're saying, well, it seems like you've gained some time anyway, keep in mind that the checkpoint is only notating where I am here as I pass through this little gradient. So it's not telling me the flaws that happen right here. But anyway, once I get back on track, I'm going to scrape the left edge of the boost gauge. And here's where I mentioned that this track is not especially well designed from a risk and reward standpoint. So right here we have an upcoming segment of the track. We're going to ignore this. All we need to do is hit the invisible barrier of this speed pad where we can clip, get that speed, and not even be near the track. Then we have the second part of the track here, which is that nasty right-hander into left-hander. Now, if the kill planes were set up in a way that the track were to be driven as intended, this would be a very challenging segment. But given that we can just fly right over it, it kind of eliminates the risk and reward, because the faster pattern, the faster cut, is easier. So I don't especially love that kind of design, but it is what it is here. Now, as we move towards this left-hand turn, of course we don't want to overshoot it, because you're going to experience a little bit of a gravity change here. But the main thing that we want to keep in mind is that this green crystal structure is, if you look at the very outside of it, it doesn't look to be transparent, but you can actually drive through this. So the actual kill wall or kill box, whatever you want to say, is kind of here. It's not totally to the outside. So as I snip that corner, notice how my ship is just a little bit inside of the crystal, and in better laps that I've run up until this point, I've cut it even closer. What I do here that's a little unique versus some of my earlier attempts at this track is I fly somewhat high and I land into a bit of a downward approach. So I don't, if you see my mouse, sometimes people will try to snake real low here. I fly high, and I found that you can kind of slope into that turn, and that carries a bit more speed coming out of it. Conversely, you're losing a little bit of time in this segment, so it's kind of a wash, but it's all about what sets you up better for the boost. Now, if you're watching real speed here, my boost is a little bit late, so even though I'm 0.50 on the checkpoint, see that delay? Now I'm 0.66, and I'm only going to fall further behind. If I hadn't used quite as much boost in this section, I would have been better off to boost as soon as I land on that left. One more thing I forgot to mention here is, because of the OET pattern with Koenigsberg, once I turbo off of the line here. So once I turbo there and I hit the kill box, I'm allowed to drain a little more right there. So if you see from here to there, using a little bit more boost in the air, gaining a little bit more speed. If we continue this along, going to once again try to get a real clean wall bounce here. Now it would appear as though I can just clip more in this section and skip this entire little right hand side of the track, kind of do a straight angle cut. But what happens is the wall bounce ends up shooting you off slower. So the option I found to be ideal is to bounce a little bit more along here, create more separation after the bounce. So see a little bit of that separation? Doesn't look like much, but now as I go to the, shall we say, classified part of the track, I'm able to create that separation. And it seems like our footage cuts right there. So unfortunately, I will not be able to show you much in the way of what happens next and what Darth Striker really figured out. But if we go back to the beginning of the track, this is where we've left off from that same wall bounce. So watch how where we just went in the footage transitions into the end of a normal lap with that really clean wall bounce, preparing yourself for the start. If this were a race, I could hit turbo right here. The time trial, of course, I'm going to delay that boost a little bit more. If you've gotten this far, I want to thank you for joining me on this very special episode and hope you got some entertainment. Before I let you go, I want to show you 3 different variations of cuts that I found while experimenting on asteroids that allow you to continue on the track into the next lap. The first one I'm going to show you is from my former world record lap on Neptune Boss, where I implement a safer variant of the cut. Then I will show you my former Acera world record, which I believe is the best way to cut the track in a racing scenario because it gives you so much speed crossing the starting line. And finally, I'm going to show you one of the more elaborate cuts that I attempted while trying to figure out the secrets of the asteroids. Once again, thank you so much, and I look forward to bringing you more episodes starting next week.